I know. I was like, I should try and wash my hair. And I did. And then it took,
It looks, your hair looks glorious. I know my hair is not going to get dry until tomorrow morning at this point.
remember I told you about how I cut it when it was like in braids? So I
Yeah.
have to tuck this side up because this side is down to here. And this side is like there.
That's right. Oh, the joys and
But,
wonders.
but I'd already been through the baking bread stage of quarantine. I'd already been through the built-a-home gym, grew a herb garden, working on like teaching pre-K. I was at that point where I'm like, okay, I need to do something.
Something different. I feel you. I had to remember how to put on my eyebrows again, and yeah.
Glorious. By the way, Benefit has the best new pencil. Just throwing that out there.
Noted.
I was using Anastasia, but Benefit is actually better because the tip doesn't get as blunt.
Good to know. Okay.
I'm going to be in Wisconsin September 2nd through the 9th.
Okay, we'll talk offline, but come on, girl. I would love, quarantine, socially distant drinks.
I am always up there. I have a print client there, and then my in-laws are up there too.
Get out of here.
I sit in my sad little Sheridan, just staring at the walls every time.
Okay, not next time. I got you. I will. Well, I don't know what exactly there is to see.
How wild can we really get? Okay, the chat. Thanks, I completely forgot. Okay. I was opening up the chat because I saw that we had some notifications.
Right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all so much. Welcome to Elal with EDN Virtual Spotlight Edition with Ella Thomas. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Gannett, and I'm on the leadership team of the Eritrean Diaspora Network. For those of you who are new to the Eritrean Diaspora Network, or EDN, we're a community organization dedicated to the advancement of the Eritrean diaspora through nonpartisan community programming. One of the ways that we do that is through professional development. We have a professional development network, and the primary objective of this program is to promote the spirit of networking and cooperation among Eritreans in the diaspora and help foster their individual and collective success by providing networking opportunities, supporting the development of Eritreans and their given careers through various programming efforts, and enhancing awareness of the professional accomplishments of Eritreans within both the Eritrean and broader communities. And that's our monthly professional spotlights. To date, we featured 59 Eritreans in a wide variety of careers. Before we start with today's event, just a couple of housekeeping items. Please keep in mind the mission and values of our organization and respect this space. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. If you have a question, please raise your hand and message the Eritrean Diaspora Network in the chat, or send a chat to the panelists, and let us know whether or not you'd like to ask your question on audio or video. There may be a short pause where you're logged out and logged back in if you opt to get on video, but you don't have to do anything, just hang tight and you'll be brought up on the screen. If you take pictures and talk about how awesome this event is, please tag us. We love good feedback. Our Instagram handle is @EriDiaspora. And most importantly, have fun. We're very excited about today's event. So with that being said, let me introduce our spotlight and our host for today. So our spotlight for the month of July is Ella Thomas, who's an accomplished model and actress with credits including Seventh Heaven, Entourage, CSI Miami, All My Children, NCIS Los Angeles, and more. She's currently playing Willa on the Quarantine series. Our host is Miela Fetaw, and she's an award-winning investigative journalist, social strategist, and documentary filmmaker. Her work has appeared in the Washington Post, Essence, Teen Vogue, Huffington Post, among others. She has received several journalism fellowships and worked on the Peabody-nominated team behind Previous Lives, an audio docuseries about gun violence. So with that, take it away, ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, EDN, for having us. We're so happy to be here.
I should be interviewing you.
No, why? No. This is all about you. I'm here to learn. I know it's you said it's 5 o'clock where you are, so I'm gonna drink early for you, Ella.
Thank you. I might take like a little intermission
as you should.
At some
With your
point.
alcohol?
So that
We're all adults
I mean,
here.
once the sun starts to go down, it won't be quite as daunting.
Well, like I told you earlier, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But no, so I'm super excited to talk to you, to get to know you, to have everyone learn more about the work that you're doing. I feel like many of us can say, you know, that you can count probably on one hand the number of anytime like actresses and models that our generation and, you know, just the Eritrean diaspora here in the US know. So I'm so thrilled to learn from you and to have everyone else learn from you. So before we get into all the questions, I have to ask, I know we were talking about it earlier, how has your quarantine experience been? How many times have you made banana bread so far? I'm sure you have. I know I have.
No, it's embarrassing. It's been, the one thing that wasn't so bad is that because even being a mom, I'm self-employed. So it's not like the work was affected where I felt like I was out of the house all the time and the scheduling. But this part of the unknown is daunting. Like at first it was March 13th and we quarantined from the beginning and then everything shut down. And it's just, especially here in California, because, you know, so much of LA is based in the film industry, writers, directors, we're all in it and nobody's working. So every time you kind of leave the house, you see all these, you know, places that you used to frequent that are shuttered, not just because of COVID, like they're not coming back. So it's starting to be a little bit like the zombie apocalypse around here, which it's just that unknown. I don't think that as human beings, we're meant to operate in the space of just, even though we all try to be present and we all try to be engaged in where we are in the moment, but we have no choice in that at the moment. And I think that's not the norm with which we've been taught. Like, you know, we're supposed to go to school, we're supposed to be on a schedule, we're supposed to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan for the future, for retirement. So to all of a sudden just sit and have no idea what's happening, it's been a bit of a mind shift, for lack of a better word. I just have to really be gentle with myself. And, you know, I don't really have a choice in that because I have a little one who just thinks that this is the best time ever. Like, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, I can go nowhere.
I love that. I mean, no, you're completely right. I'm so used to being busy all the time. And I'm typically known as the flaky friend because I just want to be invited. I'm going to say no, but I want the invitation.
I want the option.
Thank you. Give me the option. Although we already know what the answer is going to be. And now, like, even this is starting to, I mean, at this point, you know, I got my plant growing from the ceiling.
I'm really impressed. I love what you've done with the background. I love that you built the bookshelf. You color-coded your books. I have nothing going on behind me. Like, I got a purse hanging on the door. That's it. But my clothes are put away nice and neat in that closet.
There you go. If you could see my living room right now outside of this, yeah, no. So, okay. So Ella, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? All that.
All the fun, boring stuff.
Yes, all the fun stuff.
My mom met my dad when she was working as an operator. She spoke 7 languages, so she was a translator at the base in Addis. At the time, you know, it wasn't separate, so the U.S. military had a base there. So my father's American. They met there. They had me, and then he was transferred to Germany. They split up when we were in Germany. We stayed in Germany because it was easier to help get family members and sponsor them at the time, you know, because Italy and Germany were allies during World War II, which is why that's where most Eritreans could go to school. So my mom didn't want to come to America. She visited once and said never again. And so that's how we ended up in Germany, and I was there till I was 16. So when I first came to the States, I sounded like this, which is very, 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 very attractive, as you can imagine. But that's how we ended up in the States. My mom remarried my sister's father, and his family was based on the East Coast. Up there. That's the short answer.
Okay, well, we love the short answer. That's so exciting. So you come from, you know, you have your Eritrean identity and your American identity. What do you love about being Eritrean and American?
The thing about it is because most of my time was spent in Germany, growing up,
Mm.
Ade raised us. Like we went home 3-4 times a year. From Germany, it's really easy. You get Lufthansa, go through Cairo or Yemen, and then you hop in. So we never really assimilated, for lack of a better word. And then when we moved to the States, she was even more strict about it. There's a lot of, Eritreans understand this, but I don't think Americans do as much, that there is a self-segregating factor to the way our parents raise us. They want us to be a part and take advantage, but not to lose our cultural identity while doing that. And because I got here as a teenager, I was already pretty much set in who I was and how I'd been raised. So it was hard for me to kind of find my way. I'm not traditionally when you would think of an American girl and how I was raised. And so there was a lot of backlash from that, because it's like, oh, you think you're better than, oh, you speak a certain way, oh, you think you're cute, and it wasn't that. It's just that it was foreign to me. I didn't know where I fit in, and I felt that for many years, it made people uncomfortable if you didn't choose. You have to be one or you have to be the other. If you choose the other, that means that you don't like this one, as opposed to being in a space where I'm allowed to embrace both. So I think it's only been in the last probably few years where I became comfortable enough to say that I don't have to identify myself to make you comfortable. I don't have to tick the box that makes it palatable to you. This is who I am. It doesn't affect your journey in life, but I should not have to turn my light down or turn down a part of me for your comfort.
Oh, girl, speak on it. So what was that transition like then? You're set in your place, you're EDN in this very German world. You come to the US, where unfortunately here, race is big everywhere, but specifically in the US, like you said, you're forced to choose oftentimes. And I can only imagine, I came when I was 7, and I felt too EDN to be American. And then as time grew on, I felt too American to be EDN every time I went back home. But at 16, when you really understand your identity and your place in the world, what was that adjustment like?
Well, I didn't understand it yet. I just knew that I wasn't that. And that I was raised by a mother that was telling, we are the descendants of kings and queens. We know our bloodline from the Queen shit, like it is. And that was different than what I was being told at school, where history starts at slavery. And I've always said that is not my history. And people take that in the wrong way. It is not, but I don't think that's anybody's history. Slavery is not the legacy of a people. People were doctors and lawyers and the tribal leaders, they took the best. They took royalty. Oh, slavery is the legacy of the people that enslaved. And that's been, I don't think I had the sophistication in my youth to be able to express that properly. So I took the separation and kind of ran with it. I'm like, okay, if you don't want me, I don't want. I'm not going to keep always backbending. But there's this vernacular of being told that, well, you talk white or you do this. I'm like, my family speaks 7 different languages on average. This is the way you speak English on the entire planet. I'm not trying to ascertain or ascribe to a European ideal or an American ideal or a white ideal for that matter. So it wasn't that I figured it out right away. It was a growing process, and losing Ade firmly rooted me in who I am as a woman. In her home, in her heart, in her voice, and it is my job to honor that legacy. So I embrace it wholeheartedly, and while allowing that I live in a world and I benefit in a world, and I have always benefited from the fact that my father was American because I can travel freely, but that they can they can symbiotically exist. But my heart and my mentality is truly Eritrean. Like that's the way that I operate. It's the way that I operate in my home, and it's the way I operate in the world. And because of that, you get the question of, oh, what are you? Or, you know, what are you mixed with? It's like, no, I'm not. This is, if I'm not even that cute if you go back home. Trust me, the women, the women in our country, every single one of them could be on an episode, you know. So it's the idea that I am just done apologizing. I stopped apologizing for who I am. I stopped apologizing for the fact that I worked 4 jobs so that I could get a great education. I stopped apologizing for certain things that I have been allowed to do because I work hard. It's no, people think, oh yeah, you're modeling, you're acting. I worked hard. I went to school. I graduated in 3 years. I took care of my family. Like, it's not, the facade is always so bells and whistles and glittery, but the truth of it is that I've paid my dues, and I don't owe anybody an explanation anymore. And I think that comes with age also, the idea of I don't owe an explanation of who I am.
I love that. I love that. I think there are so many people, especially in our diaspora, that if they haven't figured that out already, they're still trying to find the footing to do so. And it's incredibly difficult. So thank you for sharing this wisdom.
How did you do it? Because I think that, you know, you tackle some pretty, the subjects that you tackle and don't shy away from put a spotlight on you and call into question your motivation and, well, where do you line up in the movement or in women's rights, or are you allowed to speak on a certain thing if your family's experience isn't that of a quote unquote African American as opposed to Africans in America?
You know, that's a really good question, and you're making it so conversation. It's hard. I mean, I'm so blessed that when we came here, when my family and I came here, and we came here just shy, like 2 weeks before 9/11. So our experience was very difficult, and myself particularly, I was in the South. I was right outside of Atlanta. So my experience moving to the U.S., I instantly was, being told that I was a terrorist, or I was responsible for what happened in 9/11. I had a very difficult experience. But my dad early on instilled in us that we were Black, that, in Eritrea, we have the privilege where everyone looks like us. We differ in shades, but everyone is Black. Race isn't a thing there. So coming here and adjusting to that was very difficult. But also he made sure that we knew that the reason that we were able to come to the United States, the reason that immigration acts exist, that we're able to prosper and to go to school and to excel, is because of Black people in the United States. He made sure we knew that early on, even if he's not the biggest fan of us protesting and, putting ourselves in harm's way in that capacity, or what's considered harm's way. My dad makes sure that he taught us that. We knew that from jump. So it was, I was ashamed of being Eritrean. I had an accent, like you said you did when I first moved. My family and I were in Italy before we moved here. And I spoke fluent Tigrinya, but I assimilated, I guess, so well that I forgot Tigrinya completely. Like to this day, it's still not perfect.
I call it Tigringlish. Tigringlish, like I understand everything, but then I answer back in English because it's just faster and I don't make them suffer through it. Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, all my cousins will tell you, even if they don't understand English, sometimes I will respond in English because it's, like you said, it's faster. Doing the math in your head to translate from English to Tigrinya and then back to English to make sure you did it was right. It's a whole cycle. I barely passed math in college. Let's not even front and make it difficult for everyone. But it's an adjustment. I'm still learning.
You too?
I'm still learning.
Math? I would have to take math in the summer in college. Like I would take it in the summers so that it wouldn't mess up my GPA. I would take it like where you just transfer the credits so the grade doesn't matter.
That is so funny.
Math is not
that math was the last class I needed to take before graduation. Like I put it off. It was a freshman class, and I put it off until the final semester of college because I really was not trying to do it.
What, did you major in journalism?
I did. I majored in journalism and global studies, degrees that you don't need math in. But you know, whatever.
They still torture you. They still make you take gym too to graduate.
Exactly. But no, so so this is a two-part question. Speaking of math and college, growing up, was there ever, you know, a cultural expectation from a day for you to become like one of the three approving professions, engineer, doctor, lawyer? Did you have that? Were you
Doctor, Miela, wait. Yes, of course, doctor. Yes, I was pre-med all the way up until the summer before junior year. And
wow,
and I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly I knew that I've always been great at sciences. I've always loved biology. I worked with PK in Connecticut right after I got out of school. Microbiology, genetics, gram typing, that stuff, the lab made sense to me.
Wow.
But I didn't necessarily, I love the idea of being a doctor for her more than I loved the idea of actually being a doctor. Like I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be, like specializing in field, like, was it a GP? So once I had enough credits for my biology degree, I realized that I could be a physician's assistant, I could be a nurse, I could teach, it was the degree that allowed me to do what I love once I figured out what that was gonna be. I didn't realize I just wanted to pretend to be a doctor for a living on TV. That's a whole nother story. So it was, yeah, she definitely wanted me to be a doctor. It was always the goal from the time I was little, like medical kits, everything. And so I started saying it, you know, that's, oh yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. And it just became kind of this mantra. But the beautiful thing about Ade, because she was the youngest and she was a traveler and she was so beautiful, you know, she was a model in Italy for a little while. She never said, don't dream, don't play, there was never an idea that I couldn't do it. I just didn't even know that there was a path to that world that I like to play in, the plays that I like to do, the stories I like to tell, you know, the plays that I did in school. I didn't know that you could make a living doing those things.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have even occurred to me because that's not a career path that is traditionally, you know, supported or even encouraged.
So when did things switch? When did it feel like that was, you know, a possibility? Were you always attracted to modeling and acting, or was it?
No, modeling I fell into. There was a scout at my high school. Her daughter went to school with me, and she kind of, quote unquote, discovered me. And we were close enough to New York that she got me an agent, and I started working during the summers during high school, you know, doing like 17 magazine and Glamour and things like that. I had a really bad accident one year in New York where my legs got burnt in a restaurant, boiling water, and lost track scholarships, couldn't go back to work. I was out of school for 2 months. And that kind of already put it in me that I needed a fallback. So I didn't know whether I was going to have a career after that. But I did, I healed pretty well. And then my senior year of high school, an agent that I'd worked with said, this client wants to use you again. And I went, but I never felt great modeling, if that makes sense. Like there's something about at that age having every part of you taken apart and judged, and not online we're like, oh, she's cute. She said, it's like every part of your body, from your eyebrows, your eyes, your thigh, your legs, the way your legs are shaped is taken apart. And at an age when you're really vulnerable to that, because nobody ever taught, I didn't date, I didn't think I was cute. And then all of a sudden I got this attention, but then the attention had such a dark side to it. It was this push and pull. And that's why I went back to school. People think like, oh, she's such a, good kid. But the truth is I needed to go back to school. That business would have taken me apart in a way that if I had a child, it's different because I know what it is and I can navigate it, but no teenager should be in a position where they can just be spoken to in a manner that does nothing but degrade who they are physically. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how funny you are, how hard you work. It is, do you fit this impossible standard? It's unhealthy, so that's why I ended up going back to school also and getting my degree. I'm like, but the money was so great that I didn't have student loans. So there's that. It's like this, dance with the devil. It's so lucrative, but at what price? So that's how I ended up getting into modeling. But it was never like I sought it out or it was like, oh, I want to do this. For me, it's always was a little bit of I'm doing it, but not with confidence. It's like a little bit of a cringe factor to it.
What did your family think when you started doing that in high school?
Well, it was just Ade and my sister. So it was just the three of us in the States, but you get attention for it. They see the magazine, they see you in the commercials and everything. So always supported, but it was also supported because it wasn't like I wasn't going to school. Even when I went to Paris I took a year off between high school and college. That was the reason that I also went 3 years, because my promise was that I would graduate on time. So I went to Paris for a year, worked, but then went back to school immediately and caught up. And that's why the 3 years. But everybody was always supportive. No one ever said, oh, what are you doing? But again, I wasn't doing anything that was in any kind of a negative light.
And so let's transition a little bit to acting then. How did you get into acting?
I always loved acting. I loved it. I was working in New York right after I graduated from college, and I took little classes here and there. I'd audition for little things through my modeling agency, and I just I was like, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do. All these stories that I tell, like getting lost in this world. But I still, I had the doubts of, it was during that time where what's more cliche than a model who wants to be an actress. I knew so many people that had gone to NYU and to Tisch, and I felt like that those were real actors, that I would be an imposter if I tried it. 9/11 happened, as you know, and then Ade got sick. And after I lost her, I was kind of in this place of, I have nothing to lose, and she didn't raise me to be a coward. I didn't have the armor to be in New York anymore. I felt lost. And not because, my family is amazing. Everybody back home in Asmara in Germany, my cousin Lily here in the Bay Area. But I was so attached to Ade that without her, I didn't have an identity. And so it was almost natural that I wanted to get lost in that world, because I could just keep recreating who I was. But I took the chance because of that. I said, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I go and I don't do well, and I work. I didn't have this idea of, I've never had a sense of fear of failure. To me, something like that, it doesn't really exist. It's just not part of my makeup. I'm a delusional optimist in that manner. But, if I hadn't lost her, I don't know if I would have ever taken the chance, which is, it's such a high price to pay for something that I love so much, but I wouldn't have done any of this. I wouldn't have taken the chance. I wouldn't have traveled. My whole life would be different, but it still came at a really high cost.
Absolutely. And I love this idea of delusional optimist. I think we need more people like you. people that see the cup half full instead of half empty, and just see the potential of it, you know, becoming full. I love that. So in your acting experience, do you have the most fun role you've ever played, or a fun or crazy Hollywood story? I'm sure everyone has one.
Well, the best role for me ever, and I mean, I've talked about this before, and it's, you either are someone that believes that we are part of a universe and we are part of an energy that flows. I believe Ade is with me and she watches me. To the day. So I come to LA, I start struggling. I do little films here, a little extra work. I try and, I'm making inroads. I don't really know anybody. I just keep asking questions. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go do this and I'll go do that. And a woman who knew a friend of a friend was looking for an East African actress. So they sent her family pictures. And I went in, and this was for Seventh Heaven, and I didn't know any better, and I did an accent, and I put my Zuriya on, and I went, and yeah, like full costume. There was nobody else there.
I love it. A method actor.
Yeah, like I didn't even know not to dress up at that point. That's how green I was. And you know, I stayed in accent the entire time. I was like, Salam, you know, it's like, and I said Miela because that's my full name. And the thing that people understand is when I got those pages, the dialogue, it was like Ade was speaking to me. Ade was saying, my daughters are safe. My children are safe. This woman comes back as an angel, and she is grateful. And she said that her children are going to be with Doctors Without Borders, but that she's at peace because she knows we're safe. And I booked that job a year to the date, the last time I spoke to Ade before she died in the hospital. Oh. And even with everything that's happened on Seventh Heaven, you know, with the lead and the controversy and scandal surrounding it, for me, that moment, it was like a blessing from her. Like, yes, this is your path now, and enjoy it, and I support you, and I love you, and I'm with you. So that's why that is my favorite job ever.
My eyes are there's water in my eyes, and I'm getting goosebumps. What a beautiful story and affirmation that your mom was there when you really, you know, when it clicked that this is, you know, that this was part of your purpose. Oh my gosh, Ella.
Yeah, it's really funny. People get mad because then later in the credits, they called the angel, an Ethiopian angel instead of Eritrean, and people get so mad at me. Oh. They get so mad at me, and I'm like, guys, first of all, I have nothing to do with what they write in the credits afterwards. Like, nothing to do with it. Like, it wasn't in my script. It wasn't in that. It was just, so there's this kind of idea that I'm like, you guys know that this is make-believe, right? I don't, like, none of it. I'm not really even an angel, and just, this is but yeah, that like 110 comments, just mad on YouTube.
I don't doubt that. I do not doubt that. Do you have so this is, you know, that experience was, you know, your most fun, your most memorable experience. Do you have a role that you found to be extremely challenging, or it was just really hard to prepare for?
I have two that were challenging. One I just finished. I can't walk because I've been hanging outside of a building. I don't know what made me think that I could do stunts with a week and a half of training, but we just did a pilot presentation where I kind of got to be a superhero who escapes from an asylum, and I'm climbing down buildings and fighting and myself. If you could see my knees and the bruises, and just, I'm a mess, but I had the best time. But physically, I was like, I think I might be too old. It's like when you lie about your age, it's like, oh, I don't know. This is like those times where I say I can do something and then I'd have to go and learn how to do it because I can do everything just well enough to get the job. Does that make sense?
Enough to
Like
get
I
by.
can play
Yeah.
Moonlight Sonata on the piano. I can play like something on the guitar. I can do one thing well enough to get the job, and then I'm in trouble. Like
That makes sense.
even my Italian, you know, it's like "Ci vediamo dopo." Like, yeah, it sounds like I know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh, you're not the only one. I have Italian on my resume too. But I go with, I was born there. It's spoken in the household. I didn't say I speak it directly, but
I do that. You just go, you just navigate it. But yeah, and then the other one basically made me want to quit acting. A rather famous director, like I can't even say anybody's name, but a rather famous director who has a sketchy reputation. Just everything that you can imagine. Just a misogynistic set. Not necessarily racist set because it was more subtle than that, but it's Canada and it's Vancouver, so people just the way that they conduct themselves around, I'd never experienced anything like it. I think I cried in my trailer every third day, and it made me want to quit acting because I said, this is make believe and nobody's holding a gun to my head saying I have to do this, so why do I feel so beholden? Like people feel like you have this power to say things like that. You're in this position where you're working with all these great people. And I always said that being Black and being successful doesn't make you immune or doesn't mean that you don't experience racism. It just means that you get a front row seat to some of the silliness. Like you hear it, you see it, and you don't always have someone that's advocating for you that you can speak to. That's as a woman, that's as a Black woman, that's as in every which way where you sit there and go, now there are protocols in place that you can speak up and protect yourself. That at the time you always just feel really vulnerable because it seems like people don't understand how these situations happen. But what happens is one thing taken, if you complain about it, sounds like, oh, you're just being sensitive. And then the second thing happens, and now you just sound like you're complaining. But until it's an aggregate and you go, look at all of this, then they finally go, oh, you might have been right. It's like, why couldn't that have been recognized the first time something happened?
Exactly.
And that is the issue I think that many people are trying to explain, especially right now with BMO. It's like, no, it's not about, it's that now everybody's collectively going, look, this is what's been happening all along. There's nothing new. You can see it in the news. You can watch footage from 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It keeps repeating itself because it's not being shifted in a meaningful way. People are really great at giving lip service and placating and putting a bandage on. But if you don't, and that's the thing that we've been saying, unless you have, and I always said there's a difference between an ally and an advocate. Allies do things that are favorable for both parties. An advocate has no skin in the game. They're just there for you to speak on your behalf and be there as a supportive source. And I think people need to be really cognizant of how they use language, because it's a lovely euphemism. Oh, we're allies. That's not really what you want to be saying, because what happens when it stops being mutually beneficial? That's my take on that.
No, I appreciate that. I think what do people always say about allies? It's performative. It's performative art. At some point, the performance has to end.
And then action needs to take the place of that.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad that that you said that and that you just shared that challenge, because what are some other challenges that you faced as a model and an actress, and how did you overcome them? Or what would you say to someone that perhaps was in a similar experience, like what happened in Vancouver on the set that you were in. How do you advise someone to overcome that, especially if you're new in the industry or, you know, are told to suck it up? I've heard that you hear that in many entertainment industries, in journalism, in whatever. You're told to suck it up and you have to do the work because other people have done it.
And I love that. I finally understood something that my agent said to me as a woman, and she's a woman, and she had said to me, you have a choice. You can be liked or you can work. As a woman, respect and good behavior is considered weak in the workplace. That's just the unfortunate reality. And if you are a Black woman, then you will also be difficult on top of that. I am no longer afraid of being labeled difficult. And that's what I would counsel. Do not, these words, these loaded words that we fear being labeled difficult, temperamental, dramatic just means that you're having a reaction.
Exactly.
That's all that means. But they're loaded. And if you can take the power out of that, then you won't live in fear of that. You cannot be fired if you're right. You have to also trust your voice and trust that. I'm really introspective. I always try to check my ego and say, is this my ego? Is this, or is there really something wrong here? Because I always say, I haven't been the victim of abject racism. I haven't had it as bad as some other people. So if I'm saying something is racist, it probably is pretty bad. Because I don't walk, that's not my lens. That's not the framework with which I hear or see the world. So if that comes through my filter, it's got to be really blatant and bad. You have to trust your voice. You have to find your person. And you have to not be afraid, because the problem with a lot of the creative fields, and not just creative fields, it's in journalism too, people fail upward in these industries.
Yeah.
And if you don't somewhere trust in holding the people around you accountable, you will get eaten up by that system, because we operate, and I know you do too, from an idea of the social contract where we believe things should be fair. We've been raised to believe that if you work hard, this is what happens. Fairness. That's not how these industries work. These are not, and even the creative mediums where you're a filmmaker or, you know, a documentarian and a journalist, all of these people at the end of the day are answering to the dollar. They are not there to, they are not patrons of the art. They are not there for that. And you have to grow some pretty thick skin. And it's so easy to say not to take it personal, but it's a business. It is a business first. Those days that we hear about where stars were created, or journalists, people don't even know what a journalist is. People think reporters are journalists. Not the same thing. Reporters report what's happening. Journalists actually investigate and investigate to get to the truth. People have no idea that there isn't a difference. And that's what I mean. Like, language is kind of, you know, diluting. It's like when everybody was going through, everyone's a supermodel. Everyone's a supermodel. The word doesn't mean anything. It's been super saturated. I think that's the same thing that happens, is that people lose sight of what things are because of language. And you just have to be really cognizant of the words you use. And if you do speak up, trust yourself, and don't do it in fear. People can smell fear. And don't let someone convince you that you're quote unquote crazy or sensitive. You know what? I applaud you if you are sensitive enough in this day and age where everybody is so indifferent and blasé to the chaos around us. I applaud anyone. You cannot be. It's that thing that, you know, we talked about, like having your voice and what that means. You have to have your voice and use it. and don't let anybody turn down your volume because it makes them uncomfortable and convince you that you're the one that's wrong.
I love this. These gems that you're dropping.
You know,
what?
You're there. You're in the same world. You get it.
Yeah. From more of a Midwest perspective, but yes.
But it's the same but you are still, it's because it's not even about Midwest. Everything, you and I are operating in the same medium. We're just in different states. Like that's
exactly.
And it doesn't mean that, especially in the microcosm that we're in right now with COVID, that's what we're all, the playing field is now even.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Speaking of, you were talking about the chaos, and right now it's not, I can't recall her name. I think her name is Chelsea Miller. She's a young Black woman activist in New York. She said that Black people are not living through one pandemic right now. They're living through two. So this COVID pandemic, and then the constant pandemic of being Black and being targeted, and just all the injustice that comes with being Black in this country. What role do you think celebrities, people in Hollywood, and other people of influence can play in the Black Lives Matter movement, or in movement for equality and equity? All we want is equity. Like,
it's on one hand, you saw the David Chappelle special where he said this is a time for celebrities to shut up because the people that are most impacted are speaking.
Yeah.
If you're going to put on a t-shirt and go to a rally and put up a black square, I don't have time for that. If you're gonna put up a black and white picture on Instagram and think that you're supporting the women in Turkey, you're not. People think celebrities have power. They really don't. They only have as much power as the public gives them. Does that make sense? Like, the people that are already motivated right now don't need that. Where celebrities can have the most influence is in their given sphere. You see if you're looking around and nobody looks like you need to speak up. If you're looking around and your co-star is the only person who's, either Black, Indigenous, person of color, like brown, Indigenous, person of color, you need to speak up. But there's this idea that celebrities used to have more of an influence. But because of the way that the media is, and everybody kind of has this 15 minutes of fame, with Instagram, with YouTube, we have influencers, people have watered down that power. So whereas a boycott used to be very terrifying, people know that a boycott now, you just have to wait till the next news cycle comes along. So the people that really have the greatest influence right now are the youth. I mean, look at what TikTok did to the kid. That's power. That's, 14 to 23-year-old. That's who really wields the power these days. So I feel like the job of celebrities is to empower that, to fuel that, to support that. I love what Chrissy Teigen did, and where they're like, we'll bail you out. That's where you go. Like, we'll pay for lawyers, for protesters. When that, to me, is wielding your influence for the good. We don't need another black and white message talking about you're responsible or you're complicit or you want to sing a song. That's actionable. You're going to protest and it benefits us. We're going to bail you out. We're going to set up funds. We're going to those are the things that I feel are the responsibility of people that have the financial resources. Because it's the power that it used to, just because of the world we're living in. A TikTok, what's her name, has 6 million followers. She probably can get more done than Kerry Washington. So it's things like that where the world that we're in right now is completely, it's so foreign. And I'm sure it's like to anybody listening, foreign to our parents. They do not understand the world that young Eritreans are coming up in right now. They don't understand that life happens in this screen and like that. And the world that they thought they were raising it doesn't, that's not the world we operate in. And we protect them from that because they have no idea that they're 12-year-olds that have widgets underneath the on their phones that look like something really innocuous and simple and gay. Meanwhile, it's a chat room. Like they are, I call us legacy kids, but we're not even that anymore because the next gen's already coming up. And that's where I feel like our responsibility is voicing really loudly, you can be both. You are beautiful in your whole. You do not have to be piecemeal. If you're going home and you're pretending to be one thing and going out in the world pretending that you're doing a disservice to your family and to yourself. It is not, that is why doing this is important. I think that's why your voice is so important. I think that becomes more powerful than this idea of, which is why I'm always loath, and you'll understand this, there's nothing special about I get to play make-believe for a living, but what I do have is I'm getting more and more opportunities to bring light to our community and set an example of the world that you can live in, this other path that you can walk on and embrace all of it. So that I think becomes my personal responsibility, your responsibility, anybody with a name. I think the term celebrity is a little bit of a misnomer, but if you have any kind of quote unquote power, how do you utilize that power in support? Mine is really specific right now. The diaspora and how I can represent us here and globally in a way that I'm so sick of this idea of the poor Africans, of the fact that our parents, because their parents have accents, people sit in judgment of them. Meanwhile, our parents are engineers and doctors and speak on average 5 languages. I'm tired of kids that feel like, oh, they have to apologize for that, or for the fact that the parent will work 4 jobs. I want to put power back into that. Like, no, that is beauty. That is the beauty of knowing exactly who you are and where you are in your bloodline. People are literally bleeding because they don't know who they are. And we get to embrace all of it. So I know that was a long-winded approach to, it's just that that idea of, celebrity and these people that are supposed to be role models and what it actually means and where, because just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean you have any power. Literally no one's going to listen to half the cast from any CW show. But are they celebrities? Yeah. Can they really do anything?
No, thank you for that perspective. I think that's incredibly important. You're dropping such realistic, like very real gems here for other Eritrean people, especially for, young people who are interested in acting or in modeling, but don't have the mentors or someone to look up to. Where would you recommend they start? How can they learn about the industry, break into it?
I've said this and I put it out there right now too. I might not get back to you that same day, but if you message me, I will always answer. That is why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for you guys to find out. I want to be a resource. So if you are interested, if you hear some photographer that wants to take pictures of you, wants to charge money, but you're worried, send me a message. I'll research it. You're coming to LA. You have a demo reel. You want me to send it to my agent? I will do it. You're in Atlanta. I know so many people in Atlanta. The film industry is huge there right now. So if I don't know, I will point you in the right direction. I can't always leave my personal email, but I answer also all social media. And usually if you get in touch with me through DMs and it's something legit, I do follow up and give you my personal information, and then we'll take it offline. But I'm a resource. In this industry and in television, if I lit agents, things like that, I can point you in that direction. Now, if I've said this before, if you just want to be famous, then get yourself a publicist and pay them and go that route. I'm not your person for that. But if you're wanting to get into it and you're worried about not having money for film school, or there are so many things that you can do in each of these cities that, in terms of self-submitting and building your demo reel, or if you want to be a model, what agencies are local. There's a big one in Chicago that handles everything in Milwaukee, which is why I end up in Milwaukee and Chicago and all those areas. So that is why I do this. That is kind of why I've been really vocal in the last couple of months, because I realized, okay, before I didn't know enough. And I also didn't know what I didn't know to know how to navigate that and find those answers for people. But if I don't know the answer, I will put you in contact with this person that can find that answer for you. So
I love that. Okay, y'all, for whoever's watching and listening, older cousin, big sister Ella's here to help y'all.
I'll let you know where you're going.
So, okay, well, let me ask then, before I forget, where can people follow you on social media, or where can they ask you?
Everywhere. I'm on Instagram as Gaia Girl, LA Thomas, on Facebook, on TikTok, you'll see me. Pay no attention to that. I created this crazy woman called Shower Cap Bay. Does a lot of bad dancing.
Okay, Shower Cap Bay.
Shower Cap Bay. Oh yeah, I got like 7 shower caps and sunglasses, and that is what I did. Now, I'm too grown and too old to be on TikTok, but I did it anyway. I was like, my little...
I love this. I'll be sure to follow you on TikTok once this is over. I don't use it, but all my cousins and my nieces and nephews are on it. Okay, I've got one last question, because I'm sure the Q&A, are blowing up. Looking ahead, what kinds of roles do you want to create or see yourself playing?
What I did this weekend was kind of like this pilot presentation, which is for ABC, is my dream role. She is like an amalgamation of every strong woman we've seen. She's a Valkyrie, she's an Amazon, she's lived all these lives, kind of like Charlize's character on The Old Guard. But she's also a mother, and she's trying to get back home and protect her family. So I want to tell stories that are more encompassing of who I am and the life I've lived. It's been a little one-dimensional in terms of you're the love interest, or you're the lawyer, you're doctor. So I would just love the opportunity now to tell the story as a full-fledged woman who's like, I found my voice too. Like, I feel what I'm bringing now, I couldn't have done 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago. I'll tell you the truth, probably even in January. I think the last, it's been really transformative for me this year. And I think also being really connected with our community. I've been, especially because we're coming up on the 30th year anniversary. I have a responsibility to give back. And so that's what this business is about now for me, is building a platform where I have a voice and can be a source. I want to work on a bridge program. I just want to, for our youth to know that even you don't have to have all the answers right away. And the idea that you're supposed to have it figured out at 17, 18 is a disservice to you. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to not get it right the first time. There is no such thing as failure. It's a made up idea. So as long as you're trying and you're doing your best, you'll know, at least you'll know that the end goal is fulfilling the person that you are meant to be.
I love that. And can I just add, for anybody that's watching, it's also okay. I mean, it's okay to be a doctor and a lawyer and an engineer and all of those qualified professions that your parents approve of, but it's also okay to be anything else. Clearly, we're both sitting here
right?
like,
and our parents are proud. This is a game that I play sometimes, and this is when, because I'm sure you've heard that expression, to think outside the box, and people never understand what that means. And so this is a little acting exercise that would start off class. I'm going to say a word, and people need to think about what this word means to you. Bank. Think about the word bank. Now, a lot of people are going to say power, money, security. The person thinking out the box will be thinking riverbank. The direction, bank to the left. It's the person that looks at the same thing differently. And your unique voice is how you describe things. 2 + 2 is 4. 1 + 3 is 4. 1.2 + 2.8 is how you get to a given answer is your unique voice. And that's what people say when they mean being true to yourself and bringing yourself forward.
I love that. Thank you.
Also,
I feel some type of way because I definitely, you said bake and I was like, money. So
yeah, right. Yeah, but that's because, you know, we come from families that work really hard, and they've sacrificed a great deal, so they want to make sure that we have financial security. But there are different ways that security manifests itself.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I think we've got some Q&A, some questions.
Yeah, thank you ladies so much. This was an amazing Elal, and you both are phenomenal women, and we can't thank you enough for spending this time with us tonight. So we do have a couple people who want to join by video to ask questions. Again, if you want to ask questions, please use the Q&A or the chat feature. Let us know if you want to join by video or not. First up, we have Eden who wants to ask a question.
Hi, ladies. Thank you
girl.
so much for an awesome conversation and just being so open. My question is, and either of you can answer, what are some the pieces of advice or experiences that, you know, from your upbringing that you hope to pass on to your children or future generations?
For me, it's been it's our sense of history and belonging. I'm going to take Noah home with you. Like his name is Noah Emmanuel, which is gift of God and comfort. I wanted to give him a traditional name, again, to honor Ade, but also because I don't want to lose the thing that made me who I am. I don't want to forget what it felt like to put my feet in the sand in Massawa. Like, I want to bring that forth because it is important. A lot of people flounder because they don't have an idea of who they are. People flounder when they don't know how to connect. And I don't want my connection always on my in being back home. And I want him to be proud of who he is and where he comes from. and to live in that strength and never to feel that, again, we have family that fought for independence. You know, we know what real struggle is. We know what real loss is. We know when our families do their pilgrimage and when they wave their flag, what cost that came at. And so I want that sense of belonging to pass through me into him wherever he is in the world, because we can find each other. You'll be going through the airport in Denver. You'll be like, like, and people don't understand that we talk in sounds. That like our entire family, you can have a whole conversation with your auntie. like whole conversations, no words spoken.
I love that you said that. Not only sounds, but the women in our culture, we can just talk with our faces. Our facial expressions, like, God forbid, do not upset your mom, do not upset your auntie. You will feel, I always feel my mom's eyes when I know I shouldn't
shade, like our
side of my head.
Right? Like perfected shade before shade was a thing. And a good side eye.
Oh, absolutely. So I guess to answer Eden's question, and I love what you said, Ella. So I want to echo what you said, but for me, the importance of vulnerability and of honesty. I love being strong, but it's so exhausting being strong sometimes. And I mean, we look at our parents who have had incredible lives, incredible experiences, and sometimes I hear their stories and I just look and marvel at my parents, and I wonder if I could have done what they've done. And I know, one, I'm very sensitive. I'm extremely vulnerable, but I'm so grateful for that. Because there are times I don't want to be strong, and I think that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be okay, and I'm good with that. I'm grateful for the experiences that my parents have had, but I don't know if I could have done everything that they've done without thinking about mental health and thinking about my family. There's just so much sacrifice involved. That I hope that, if or when I have children, I just want to pass the importance of vulnerability. And then honesty, because again, with growing up into two different generations and my family and I really coming to the US as the Italian is coming out, you can see my hands, us really figuring out how to be Americans together. We're first generation together. I was younger, so my experience was very different from my parents. But I think there were times when I didn't show up as my fullest self and my most honest self for my parents. And I wish I would have done that earlier. Now, I mean, I'll just tell my parents how it is. But, I wish I wasn't afraid to say what was on my mind or to do what I wanted to do. So I think vulnerability and honesty, especially because I hope my mom does not watch this now, because I probably shouldn't say this. When I was 17, I snuck a boy into the house. I shouldn't have. I know that now. My sister helped me. I'm gonna put her on the spot so I won't get in trouble if she sees this. But sometimes you just wish that I could have been like, can I just have this guy over, even if you're sitting in the salon with us, sipping Boon or Shahi in the corner, listening to every word. But honesty in that capacity also. Mommy, I'm sorry if you're seeing this, if you're watching this.
I love that you said that. Because I take it for granted now, but that's why I was able to finally start doing well in this business, because after losing a day, I wasn't allowed to cry when I went back home. When I flew her back, it was apnea, and everybody's like, be strong. And I broke wide open. And if And this business allows me to feel all that, which I wasn't raised. I saw a day cry twice my entire life. So I was raised with that, the same thing you're talking about. And I had to unlearn that to be in this business. And I think that's why so many Eritrean women in the business struggle a bit, because this business requires for you to be honest, open, vulnerable, and completely in touch with your feeling. But we're also used to being stoic. We've been taught to be stoic and strong.
There's a lot of unlearning. I couldn't
love
agree more.
that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, ladies. We do have a Q&A in the, someone asked a question in the Q&A box. Hi, this is Showtime Mike. I wanted to say I loved Ella Thomas CSI episodes with LL Cool J. My question is, how did how did Ella break into the industry?
The film industry, well, as I said, I moved to LA. I didn't really know anybody, but I had a couple of friends that'd been here beforehand. So I started taking the acting classes that I knew were the ones to take. I would do these things that you can do self-submissions where you apply to like USC, or to be part of the directors that are coming up there. They do these film projects. So I would submit myself as an actress on those projects to try and put together a demo reel. And I got my tiny little reel together and called anyone I knew that would send it to their agent. And I had so many rejections. And the sad thing is I wasn't being rejected because I wasn't good. It was just at that time, it was like, we have a Black actress, or you're too green. Or I remember I got a phone call back. You guys, this is so sad. I'll put them out there. It was Domain Talent. They were really good. And I knew an actress that they had. And I'm like, oh, that's who I should send my stuff to. And they called me. And I was so excited. They called me. They left me a message and said, would you call us back? I called them back and I asked for the office of this agent, and the assistant got on. He's like, yeah, I left you a message. And I was so excited. He's like, yeah, we just wanted to know if you wanted us to send your stuff back to you. End scene.
Oh my.
Crushed. True story. And I was like, no, you can just throw it out. My little burnt CD with my little name written in marker on it. But yeah, but Seventh Heaven changed everything, because then I had legitimate footage, and then I got a bigger agent, and then from then on, it was Ugly Betty, but yeah, everybody said no initially. Everybody. But again, delusional optimist. And my whole thing was, as long as nobody's saying that I'm a bad actress, then there's a chance. I just have to, keep at it. Now, if someone had said like, oh no, then I might have been a little bit dissuaded, but yeah, that was always my gauge, even now, because the criticism that people think is okay to put out there on social media sometimes, it's just, you just wonder, like, what are they doing at home? But my whole thing is always, as long as they're not saying I'm a bad actress, I can live with all the other stuff, because you're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, but that one's like, all right.
That's so funny.
So we have a video question from Fetaw, and I will put you on video in a second.
Oh my God. Hi, you're so beautiful.
I know, right? That's what I thought too.
I've literally been chatting on the side with everybody about how stunning you guys look. And I was like, who's the model? I don't know. And it's so amazing. So thank you. And thank you so much for making time and availing yourselves and sharing so much of your personal stories. Eden stole my question. Thank you, Eden. So I'll ask a slightly different one. So you talked a lot, Ella, about the transition that a lot of us had to make, either those of us who migrated here or those of us who were born and raised, but with very recently immigrated families, and that struggle of identity and assimilation to a certain extent. So we're kind of like 1.5 to 2 generations in now, and the one that's coming up behind us is going through a different experience, right? They probably don't have quite as many challenges with like acceptance and figuring out their place in this country. And I think, yeah, the ones probably immediately behind us, and then, you know, the generation that your child belongs to is going to face a different set of challenges. So to what extent do you guys think you see the challenges and how they're changing very rapidly as we're assimilating in this country, and how we as a community, as a diaspora group, can still maintain our identity, maintain our ties as we become further integrated into our new country that we belong to, but how we can strengthen and support each other. Thanks.
Yeah, you want to go?
I was gonna toss it over to you, Mama. I mean, I will say, I'm 25, so I'm like probably just shy out of this newer generation. But I have so many cousins that are experiencing so many, that are having so many different experiences that I had. But I think for me, what my issue when, you know, I came here was like desperately trying to fit in and be everything that I wasn't. And I feel like this younger generation is just so relentless, so bold, just so like, so sure of themselves, or so sure of what they want to do, that I feel like perhaps the challenge might be just hanging on to part of our Eritrean identities. I don't know. That's what I feel might be a particular challenge, because now, you know, there's they don't have to worry about being first generation. You know, like I'm first generation. I'm still trying to figure it out. My parents are first generation with me, but the kids younger than us, there's footing already. A foundation has been based, which is why they're able to bloom and to grow so differently and so much more full than I was ever able to. I feel like that's the only thing that I can think of.
No, but I think you're right, exactly in what you said, to take it even further, because there have, even in Argentina younger, there are artists that we have, and this is like actresses and musicians and even athletes, that even though they have parents that are Eritrean and they have strong roots at home, their connection is through their parents, but they are fully Americanized. It's not that and I think that's what I've discovered in the last couple of months of, especially talking on some of the youth panels, is that the connection exists, but it's through the parents. The identity is through the parents, so they're fully assimilated into, you know, the culture that they're growing up in, their cultural identity. Does that make sense? Like it's still
Absolutely.
still being split. Like they know, they know the dance, they know their history, but they feel it as a root through their parents, as opposed to a connection back home themselves. And that is something, that's why I was saying, I feel like that's a part that we can start to play, where there's a bridge. You know, a lot, the Israeli communities that where they pay for the youth to come back and visit. And I'm like, there's programs that exist that we could model, where so we all, because that's what I felt when I lost a day, I lost my tie, and I had to really work hard to find it. And I think that's what a lot of the younger generations will face, that as the older generation dies, how do they maintain that connection? How do they maintain the history, just know exactly what you've said. Like, we're so tethered to our parents. Who are we without them? Where is our identity without them? It's easy to be American, Canadian, Italian, German, because you're in it. So that becomes, I feel like that's that's what we're doing right now. I think EDN does that. Well, I think every time we get together and we do this, we strengthen that community. And because of COVID, we've reached out more to each other. So all these little offshoots that were all over the country, we can now come together. We can do a global scale. And if you know, if we can follow the leads of, you know, like EDN has put into practice, and we can then be an advocate and be a voice that amplifies that, I feel like that's how we serve the younger generations.
Yeah, and to quickly just follow up on that, I will say, you know, to just further on Fenaw's question, when I was 18, I was so comfortable in my American identity that I was just fine saying I was Black. Not that there's anything wrong with, you know, just saying that you're Black, but there was no urgency to say I'm from Eritrea, or I was born in Italy, or I have this cultural background. So I will say, to this date, the best decision that I could have ever made, after I graduated from high school, May of 2013, I was not ready to go to college. I went back home for 6 months. It was the best decision I could have ever made. It's the fact that it's been 7 years since I've been back, like, hurts my heart that it's been so long. But this was my first time going back to Eritrea alone. My mom wasn't holding my hand. My siblings weren't there. My dad wasn't there. I had to figure out how to communicate with relatives in Tigrinya or English, knowing that my Tigrinya, or, you know, what you said, Ella, was not, it just wasn't there. But it was the most humbling experience because, one, it wasn't rushed. I wasn't like back there for a month or for the summer like you typically go. I was there throughout the fall when most of the diaspora from Europe, from Australia, from the US aren't there. It was like sometimes I was the only, like, it felt like I was the only foreigner on, like, you know, at the clubs or in Gurna Harnet. Like, it was just me. But it was such a humbling experience because I spent so much time with my family. I spent so much time in my parents' village. I had the most magical 4 days in Massawa, and it was like, it was mine. Like, those memories were mine. And then I came back and I was like, no, my name is Miela Fetaw. Say it right. Do you want Kifleyesus at the end? I'm from Eritrea, like, repping Berais Abi, like Abe, like, all day. Like, I was just so proud. It was a different kind of pride than, like, I had before. And it was because the experience was mine. So if y'all can go back home, really see where your parents grew up, where your relatives grew up, and you're gonna come back like, can no one tell me nothing. If y'all wanna know, I'm from, but I buy on one side, I defend it on the other, like, we're probably related, some of us. So it's just
all of us.
It's different, all of us. It's a different love because Eritrea felt like it was mine. It didn't feel like it was just my parents, you know?
Love that. I love that.
Thank you so much. So we do have some more questions in the Q&A. So what is some advice both of you would give to your younger self?
Care less about what other people think. I know we hear it, we say it. It will not matter. It will not matter. Stop trying to please everybody. If I could go back and just tell myself it will not matter, don't care so much. Because a lot of decisions I've made have always been to be perceived as the good daughter, the good sister, the good student, the good runner. Like, I'm so good, you know, I never get in trouble, always with, I would have encouraged myself not to turn down my light to make other people comfortable. I've been so busy always wanting to make sure that I'm like, no, because I'm tall, and I'm like, I'm your friend. I'm like, cast a huge shadow, turn your light up bright. Don't turn it down for anyone or for any reason. You don't owe that. That's what I would say. I would say that to everyone, not just myself.
I love that. You said what I was going to say, but one thing that I wish I could tell my younger self is don't let people mispronounce my name. I wish.
Oh, no.
I wish. I know that feels so small and so minuscule, but if I would have told people and let them take the time to pronounce my name correctly. I don't know why that sits on my heart so much, but I think about what my name means. I think about Eritrea. I think about, you know, my family, and it's diminishing. It feels like, you know, my light is being diminished when I allow people to call me what they think they can call me.
Amen.
Thank you so much. So we have one last question before we wrap up and go into our rapid fire questions. But Hannah was asking, how can we create a space where we allow our youth to go back home and allow them to envision creating businesses back home? For example, the year of return in Ghana.
That's actually really interesting because I have been working with the embassy in London with Jonas for the last probably like 4 months, and because I was hoping that for next year that there would be some kind of scholarship program that we could get funded where I think things are going to shift now, especially with travel opening up and people wanting to go back to celebrate. I think more people are expressing an interest in wanting to go back, not just to do what you did, which is make your own memories, make it your own. But the scholarship program that EDN just did, if we can start, rather than that it's you and then someone in London, if we can have a unifying source where we pick a certain amount of students and pick, the time of year and we need the support of the ministry and we need the support of travel and the people that are doing the documentation. It is doable. It is in the works. There's no quick, easy answer because it's so disparate in terms of who can travel freely and who can't, and what are the ramifications for people that can't travel freely and how to, but it is in the works. I think I'm not the only one. There's quite a few people that have expressed an interest in creating a bridge program that would allow to speak to exactly that question. But it's not firm yet. It is not cemented, but that's been one of my main goals starting last March, is that to have it in place for the anniversary.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. We'll definitely be on the lookout for that. So before we go to the rapid fire round, we have
rapid fire round. Pressure.
We have some shout outs in the chat. Showtime Mike said, "Thank you, Ella. Inspiration for us in the entertainment industry." And then Hannah has said, "Thank you so much for this. Thank you for encouraging the younger Eritrean generations." And then there's other kudos in the chat as well. So the rapid fire questions are for both of you. Answer them. Don't think too much about it. It's just meant to go really fast. The last 5 before you go, we'll call it. So for both of you, tell us something about you that would surprise us.
I'm a cheese addict.
Oh my God, I'm so boring, y'all. I love sports documentaries. I hate sports, but I love sports documentaries.
So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Be a figure skater.
My
long program would be pink. Oh yeah, I've got the whole thing picked up.
Probably modeling.
You can do that now. Wilhelmina would snatch you up in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Let's talk after this.
Like they would. Like Wilhelmina, Chicago, I will just like, I'm literally just going to take it off your Instagram and send it to them. They would be crazy about you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah. What is your favorite word?
Shit.
You're so much better at this. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scream.
That's because I never get to say anymore. Oh shit is my thing for like whether I'm happy. It's like, oh shit. If I'm like, oh shit, or just like, or oh really, oh shit. Like it's my thing, and I don't get to say anymore because the little buzzkill that I live with.
It's a phrase. I blame my dad. Ufankolo. That's my oh shit. It's not appropriate. But
okay. What absolutely excites you right now?
Being home. I love being home.
My 2-year-old. He's kind of amazing.
Okay, and the last question. What would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
She's been waiting for you.
Oof. That's beautiful. I hope he says it's about time. At 90, 99, my grandfather lived to be 101. So I hope if I'm blessed to make it to his age, it's about time.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, so much. This has been a truly inspiring, motivating conversation. I really gained a lot from hearing from both of you, and can't thank you enough. On behalf of EDN and all the attendees, we really appreciate you all and all that you're doing. Thank you to all the attendees for taking time out of your Thursday to join us. Please be on the lookout for future events. And always follow us on social media to keep up to date on what we have going on. So thank you so much, Miela and Ella. We really appreciate you both.
So proud to be a part of this. Thank you for inviting me. I am inspired by what you're doing. I'm inspired by all of you, actually. And you make me want to do better.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I'm seeing comments.
God, my sister said that my mom said I look great, so that means she watched this. Okay.
I love that.
I didn't really have a boy in the house, Mom. This was great.
For dramatic effect.
Of course.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, I give you my
Bye,
number.
Mom.